Welcome to the RockStar in Life podcast, where you learn the secrets to unleashing your inner rock star so you can make the world your stage. What's up, rock stars in life? It's Siri Shakti, and I have my co-host here,
Dr. Dan.
Well, today we're going to be talking about how to cleanse your way to health. Specifically, we're going to be talking about juice cleansing, and we have so many cool things to share about this topic. It's something that is very fresh in my mind, at least, because I just finished a cleanse myself. But before we get into it, we want to give a little bit of a disclaimer here, right, Dan?
Well, we don't want to, but we have to.
We have to give a disclaimer, yeah.
For legal reasons, we have to do the cover our butt disclaimer,
Yes.
which basically says that before you start any exercise type program or diet or whatever you want to call it, we don't like to use the word diet because it means like die in the first three letters and then with a T at the end, die. But, always consult your physician or seek out medical advice or whatever and all that good stuff before you attempt anything.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, when we're talking about juice cleansing, we're not talking about like the Garth Brooks juice cleanse program or diet or whatever. I don't know if you remember that. It was from the movie So I Married. Is it So I Married?
So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I Married an Axe Murderer. I can't remember. I wrote it down.
No, it is. It's So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Yeah. So I Married Axe Murderer with Mike Myers. Older movie, but awesome. It's
Awesome.
Still holds good from years ago. And there was a mention in there about like, oh, I'm on that Garth Brooks juice cleanse or diet.
Boy.
And that was pretty funny. I'll put a link down below to that clip because that was pretty awesome. So we're not talking about that. Also, there's another cleanse that I did years ago that somebody recommended. And I was like, you know what? I'll try it out and see how it goes. Was the master cleanse.
Master cleanse.
Yeah, which was so you took lemons, cayenne pepper, and high grade syrup.
Oh.
And you do that like a few times. I think it was like, they said like 6 times or more a day.
Yeah.
And I forgot how many days you're supposed to do it, but I did a few days and I felt horrible.
I did too.
Horrible. I did not feel like any health was coming along my way.
I felt full of sugar. That's all I felt like.
Yeah, that was insane. So when we say juice cleanse, we're not talking about like any of those kind of things. We're talking about vegetables.
Yes.
Organic is best and preferred, but vegetables being, put through not a cleanser.
Juicer.
Putting through a juicer where it's just squeezing all of the juice out of those vegetables that you would normally chew up. And then you'd swallow like the pieces of vegetables and stuff. Well, you're getting all that juice. So you're not having to put your body through the process of having to digest like the skin and the chunks or anything like that. Instead, You're just drinking it all in and it's helping to flush all those toxins out.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the kind of juicing we're talking about.
All right. So before we get into our personal story, because we have been through cleanses ourselves and we have a lot of experience with this over the years, I wanted to share with you a little bit about the benefits of doing a juice cleanse because there are so many benefits and I won't even be able to cover them all here because I have met people and read stories of people healing themselves from all sorts of ailments and chronic pain and all sorts of things by juice cleansing. I know people that have lost significant amount of weight by doing juice cleanses. Like I said, healing from chronic pain, different diseases and things like that. But of course, I'm not going to sit here and say that doing a juice cleanse is going to heal every disease, right? But what I can tell you is that doing a juice cleanse is going to it's just going to bring your body into a state of balance. It's going to restore the body and help all of the organs and everything work a lot more efficiently.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard stories, we've seen documentaries, we have, firsthand have known people that have done some miraculous things.
Yeah.
Using, these cleanses that we're talking about right here. And we've seen amazing results ourselves going through cleanses. So that's what we can say.
Yeah.
Definitely.
definitely. Yeah. And it's not hard to find. You get online and you look at stories. You will find countless stories of people talking about the transformations they went through. One of my favorite things is to see how people have lost weight, and you see their before and after pictures. And it's just so cool to think that drinking vegetable juice, can restore your health in that way.
Yeah, we'll put some links down below, some resources, some of the things that we found ourselves, and some things that have helped us. So we'll definitely put that on this episode's page.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, I want to explain a little bit about our own story and how we came into this. It's been, wow. Do you think it was maybe like 10 years ago that we started playing around with this?
And you can probably refer to episode 11 as well if you haven't listened to that yet, which is Hug a Cow and Eat a Salad, where we talk about plant-based living, and we tell quite a bit of our story there. And this kind of ties into that, because I don't even think we talked about cleansing in there.
No,
but that's something that we did. That was a big part of this. And yes. I don't even know how many cleanses I've done, but when I started out, I did, I want to say a 7-day, it might've been longer, but it was a 7-day cleanse, vegetable juice cleanse that we'll kind of go into. I did it. Actually, I think the first time I did it was Thanksgiving. And that was, over 10 years ago, I believe. And it's gotta be it is over 10 years ago. And I remember it was pretty difficult, but I felt pretty accomplished. Like, yes, they're eating my favorite chips and stuff, and I'm not having any. So that means I'm awesome, right?
Yes.
I'm super strong. And then I've done quite a bit of 24-hour cleanses and 3-day cleanses, and quite a bit of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember, I remember being kind of jealous of you because you were always able to do these long cleanses, and I would last like one day, and then the second day I would just lose it emotionally.
You would go nuts. You were like, I can't do this. I'm shaky, and I'm feeling all weird and stuff. And I'm like, just break the cleanse, damn it. I can't handle this anymore.
I was no fun to be around. Yeah. And, for me, my background, I'm not going to get too much into this story now, but I dealt a lot with an eating disorder. I was bulimic for years. And so I really feel like back then, the reason why I had such a hard time sticking to it is because for me, food was extremely emotional. It is for everyone, but it was heightened for myself. And so going a day without like food that you're eating, it was really hard for me. I felt like that trigger. At that time I wasn't bulimic anymore, but it definitely triggered me, and I didn't want that. So, it's amazing that at this point now I actually finished a long cleanse. I'm actually quite proud of myself.
Well, for people that don't know what bulimia is, maybe you should explain that. Otherwise, they might think of the movie like in Zoolander when they're like, you can read minds?
I think,
did she say she was bulimic, or what did
Yeah.
Was it bulimic or was it
bulimia? Yeah, she said, I was bulimic, and they look at her and they're like, you could read minds? And she's like, no. So bulimia is where...
she said something different.
No. Okay, I promise you. All right. I know. Okay. So bulimia is where you eat food, and then shortly after you self and make yourself vomit it up, which now even saying it just sounds disgusting. And it's interesting because it's such an emotionally rooted thing. It has to do so much with your self-worth, and we'll have to do another episode on this, in fact. But yeah, so that was huge for me. And so doing a juice cleanse was hard, and but still, actually at one point though, we both of us ended up doing a cleanse together. We went to Fiji for one of Tony Robbins' events. And how long was that cleanse there? Do you remember? Was it like 5 days or something?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to remember because I went there quite a few times, and
yeah.
I can't remember. But yeah, that was intense because, and I'll let you tell your story about that, but I thought that was going to be like, easy. I've done cleanses before. I can do this. This is going to be simple. But man, when I've done cleanses in the past, I remember like the first time our friend, Paul had said, oh, when you're doing a cleanse, just be prepared to go to the bathroom a lot and just grab a blankie and like cuddle in bed. Don't do like a lot of work or anything or go out a lot.
Right.
And I'll say this was the exact opposite in Fiji because number one, it was hot. So that was something different. And then number two, they did not have us sitting around. They had us doing, I'm sure you'll get into that in a second, but they had us doing like all kinds of stuff and activities as well. And so we were not just sitting around. I mean, we were doing a lot. They're having us dance. And it hit me hard. I was just like, oh, it was crazy.
Yeah, we were dancing. We went that one day to that village and did like, work in that children's hospital where we had to help paint. And do you remember that?
Where we had to?
No, I mean, we
were volunteering.
Excuse me, we were volunteering.
We were forced into labor.
That's not what I meant.
They had guns to our heads.
We got to. It was an amazing experience. But so we were on our feet like a lot, and so it was it was pretty tiring. But I know for myself that was the first time I actually made it through a juice cleanse because you're with so many people doing it, so you feel very supported. And so I was able to actually hang through that one. And that was pretty cool because with that one, they did that testing where they take your blood at the beginning of the cleanse before you start. They take your blood sample and they show you your blood underneath a very, high quality, intense microscope. Yeah. I always get telescope and microscope confused.
Yeah, it was a telescope. What they did is they actually like flew it to the moon and then put your blood there. And then with this high powered telescope, they like looked under the telescope to see what your blood looked like on the moon.
It was awesome looking.
You got moon blood.
Okay. It was not a telescope. It was a microscope. Yeah. And they show you your blood.
Just think of micro as like small.
Okay.
Micro. So it's looking down at something micro.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
And so they were showing, or you got to see what your blood looked like. And I remember for a lot of people, like there were blood cells that were like oozing junk, like, and like sticking together and
just looked like death.
Looked like death. And like there wasn't a lot of activity, like they were moving really slow. Whereas the blood cells are actually supposed to be like moving pretty quickly and
vibrant.
Vibrant, yeah. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And the other thing that we did there was we had our first ever colonics, which I have to tell you I was a little bit nervous and apprehensive about. But the reason that they did that is because our intestines over the years, they, all the food and everything that goes through it, over time it builds up. There's a lot of junk in there, a lot of trash that's just like sitting along your intestines. And so especially like if you're trying to clear out, and cleanse and detox and trying to lose weight and things like that, you want everything to be flowing well. It's going to make the whole process a lot better. Another thing too is that a lot of people get parasites that live in their intestines. And so the colonics help to get rid of all of that.
Yeah, well, also, think of it as like driving a car. If you poured like sand in your car in the gas tank, it's not going to run very well.
No.
So you want to flush all that out. I mean, that's the only way to get it out is you have to flush it out. It just builds up over time and gets worse and worse and worse.
Yep.
But I remember those, man. Those colonics were very interesting. Very, I would say eye-opening, but it opened something else up. But
well, it's you get to sit there and you're like, getting this thing done, and I mean, it's still you have a blanket over you, but there's
what was that story though? Because we did those every morning. Didn't we do them twice a day, or is it just once a day?
No, once a day. We did it multiple times. Yeah.
But wasn't there a story? The woman that was working with us, she told us that there was somebody that came to her that had like stomach problems all their life. And wasn't it like a toy or something that they chewed on and swallowed or something? It was like their brothers or little brothers like toy that they'd always eat or something like that.
I don't know.
It was something like that. It was
Okay.
pretty incredible. I was like, because I'd asked her like, what's the most craziest thing that you've seen people flush out?
Right.
But besides that, I mean, yeah, she said that. I mean, I don't think she didn't show us any of ours, but she was. I mean, I've seen online like parasites that have came out. Like they said that there was like one that was so big that it was like huge.
Ugh.
And like, I mean, these are like living things that if you saw, like on a leaf or something outside, you would think it was just like a caterpillar, not a caterpillar,
A worm.
but like some kind of worm or
Yeah.
bug or something.
A big one.
That you'd be like, oh, what's this? And just imagine that swimming around inside you.
Just eating away,
Ew.
having a feast.
Yep. So that's why you want to cleanse.
Yes. Yeah. It's, I mean, a lot of people I know would be like, colonics, I'm not going to get those done. But honestly, I can tell you firsthand, when you're doing a cleanse, it's really a benefit.
Yeah. And you don't have to, I mean, again, the things that we're talking about here is, there's a perfect, way of doing this, but
Right.
it's not something you have to do right away.
Right.
I mean, you can just start out with, the juice cleanse for, whether it be, I mean, heck, even if you can only last 24 hours,
Yeah.
I mean, that's better than nothing. It always has to come down to this, like, push for 3 days or 7 days, and again, it depends on where your health is right now as well. And, what your doctor recommends. And if your doctor doesn't recommend, doing juice cleanses, I recommend you get a new doctor.
Yeah.
Find one that does.
I know we have a great doctor, and he said that they recently started recommending juice cleanses to their patients. They even do a group, for some of their patients, they do a group water cleanse for 3 days, which I don't know anything about, but I was like, wow, it's pretty cool to hear that they're doing things like that.
Yeah. And that's what we did is we actually seeked out a doctor that has a lot of the same, beliefs and understands plant-based living.
Yeah.
So they were able to say like, we recommend this.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So that's what I recommend.
I wanted to tell a little bit about why, I wanted to talk about this today. Because there is a purpose of why I decided to go on another juice cleanse. And now one thing I didn't say is that I had originally set out to do a 10-day juice cleanse, and I had never done one that long before. But 8 days in, I decided to stop because, I'm really listening to my body, and I decided that my body was telling me, you're done, that's enough. But the reason that I went on that is because a year ago, almost exactly, I was driving home one day, taking my daughter back from a competition. It was nighttime. And all of a sudden, my vision in my right eye went like lopsided. And I started feeling this like pressure on the side of my head, and I panicked. I mean, I felt like I was just going to faint because I didn't know what was going on. And I'm not going to get too much into the story, but what I will say is that it's been a year now, and I went to doctors, I went to healers. I had a CT scan done, and no one could figure out what was going on. I'm not going to say that none of those doctors, none of those healers couldn't help me, because although they couldn't help me with my symptoms and figure out what was really happening, they did help me emotionally. I mean, if it wasn't for all those people that I talked to, I don't think I would have been able to make it through the past year emotionally. It was definitely the toughest thing I'd ever been through. But what ended up happening is about 5 weeks ago, I was just eating some food and my crown came off. I have one crown on my upper right, it's my back right molar. And I thought, shoot, this thing came out. So made a dentist appointment. And I think I've talked to so many moms about this, and I know this is kind of a common mom thing, that we send our children to the dentist, to the doctors all the time, but we always put ourselves last. And so I hadn't been to the dentist in like 2.5 years. Well, I go in, they take an x-ray, and when the dentist comes in, he says, you have a big infection up in your upper right molar. And immediately, the first thing I thought is, oh my gosh, is there a connection? Because it was my right side of my face and eye that was having all the symptoms. I part of me wanted to believe that, but I had gone to so many doctors and couldn't find answers that there was a little bit of fear that this wasn't going to solve it. But anyways, I took a deep breath, picked myself up. I went home and, decided, okay, I'm going to go on this antibiotics and just see where it takes me. So I went on antibiotics. They ended up having to do a tooth extraction because the tooth was just, it was gone, right? And, as I'm getting the tooth extracted, he says to me, how much do you want to know? Because not everyone wants to know what's happening. And I said, just lay it out, right? And he says that there was there was a cyst in there, and the infection had actually gone through an inch of the bone. So there was a big hole in there. On top of that, it had irritated the sinuses, which makes complete sense because for the past year, I was having sinus pressure and couldn't get that to go away. So after that, I went on antibiotics, and about 2.5 weeks into my healing, I was noticing a little bit of improvement, but I was still noticing, like my body was telling me there was a lot of inflammation. And so I thought, like I was online looking at how to get rid of inflammation, and ta-da, like magic, there it was, juice cleanse. And I was reminded of all the benefits and all of our juice cleanses in the past. So I told Dan, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a juice cleanse. And I didn't know how long. I just knew I was going to start. And so I decided, there's different options. I mean, so many people buy juice cleanses nowadays, but I decided to just make my own. And I ended up, like I said, I was shooting for 10 days. I made it 8 days. All I can tell you is that 5 days into the juice cleanse, I no longer had any pressure on the side of my head. At this point, I barely notice any pressure in my sinuses. I mean, it's just barely a smidge, but it's not even really bothering me. And my vision in my right eye is significantly better. I mean, I'd like to say 100%, but I do notice a little bit still. But I'm not feeling scared about it anymore because I already am seeing the healing that's took place, and I already know it's headed in a good direction. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I know for myself, anytime, like I have to be medicated or whatever, like when I broke my foot a couple years back, I remember one of the things is, they prescribed, what was it? Vicodin, I guess. Yeah, it was Vicodin. So I was taking that for a few days. And again, I mean, I like that kind of medication, for like 2 or 3 days, because it really knocks out all the pain and everything. But you start to get really dry mouth and you feel it in your body. You just feel like, oh man, I feel icky. I have no energy. I'm just like kind of out of it, and this dry mouth. And you just want to get rid of all that junk that's going through your body from that medication. And whether, I don't usually go on a juice cleanse after, but I eat like raw vegetables, right?
Right.
And raw vegetables just means that we don't cook anything really, Yeah. I mean, if I have soup, we're not like boiling the soup or anything. It's like a slow warm, basically, to where it's warm. And putting the vegetables in there, not sauteing them or steaming them or anything like that. They're just in there and they're wet.
Right.
Kind of, right?
It's kind of a light steam.
Yeah. And I'll do that for 1 to 3 days, and that'll have a very cleansing effect as well. Now, obviously, if I was, if I had eaten, meat and a lot of dairy, then I would need to go on something longer and more harsh, And when I say harsh, more like a 7-day straight up just vegetable juice, and that's it,
right.
And do that for 7 days and then come off that. So it really depends on where you are. And again, like with the resources we'll give you, there's books that go through all that. And there's quite a few fad ones out there that will say like, oh, this is the perfect mix and that's the perfect mix. But, they're all, it's like, organic, vegetables. that's
Yeah.
that's the important thing, you know?
Yeah. Definitely organic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. So with all those fads out there, as long as you're doing one of them, you're probably pretty good with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but I really like that you said organic though, because you don't want vegetables that have pesticides all over it, you know?
Yeah, or GMO or anything like
Yeah.
that. I mean, you do want to make sure you get the cleanest. Now, obviously, if you don't have access to something like that,
Yes.
then, you know, so be it. You know, it's better to do something than nothing.
That's such a good point, because I was talking to our doctor and he said that sometimes people come to him and they just can't afford currently to do all fully organic vegetables for their cleanses. So they will either kind of mix it up, do some organic, some non-organic, and they still see the benefits. It's just that
or go to a farmer's market as well, and
Yeah.
you might be able to get some, you know.
yeah, maybe some deals
Save
or
some money
something.
there,
You know, it's just we're just talking about if you're trying to do like, you know, the best case possible, then, you know, do all organic.
Well, it's kind of like that it's kind of a bad joke, but to call it a joke, but it's kind of that joke that I've heard for years. And I've even said it to myself when somebody's like, you know, oh man, I would do organic, but it's too expensive. And I usually reply back with, well, it's cheaper than cancer,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So just saying not that, you know, that you have to do organic, but if you can, do it.
Yeah.
And if you know, can't budget for it, well, I highly recommend you do something on the side, or, you know, or start an online business where you can make a little bit more money, because sometimes just an extra $200 to $500 a month can actually pay for that.
Well, usually if we really are honest with ourselves, we can see areas where we're spending money on junk that we could be putting towards our health instead.
Yeah.
You know?
Just don't shove like Twinkies and hot dogs inside your juicer.
Oh God.
Should probably put a link to the kind of juicer that we use.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a few over the years. Some are, you know, considered amazing. Some are really expensive. I think for now we just bought like
I went to Target and I got mine and I love it. I really like it.
I remember when I bought the first one, I forgot which model it was, but it was like one of the best and it was expensive. It was a few $100s. And I remember reading that they were, you know, doing examples. And again, you know, they were doing examples where, you know, they used the two different juicers, the cheap one, you know, you can get a Target, and then the more expensive one. And like you got more juice squeezed out from the other one. So, I mean, we didn't do a test, you know. My wife bought that one, so who knows? She likes to be thrifty. She likes to go, oh, I found a good deal.
It wasn't even that. I was determined in that moment, I'm starting this cleanse. I'm getting my juicer. Like, I need it now.
Well, that's what's important, because, you know, if you left it up to me, I probably would have researched it for another week or two. And then you might have been like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to do this. So getting something now is better than not. You know, so we'll probably, I'll have to do some do some searches on the reviews as well. And if I find a better one, I might do that one.
What we could do is post a link to the one I have now and the one that we bought years ago. So that way they have options, you know,
Yeah. Well, that way also, so if we get the more expensive one, then they know that one's actually better.
Cool.
But, you know, anything's better than nothing.
That's right.
Usually.
Well, yeah, usually.
I want to say anything, but you know, I think you know, you guys are sophisticated and know and intelligent enough to know that when I say anything is better than nothing, I'm talking about like even a cheap juicer is better than nothing.
Yes.
And I'm not saying anything like, you know, a rock, you know, or a car, you know, driving over your vegetables with your car in a plastic bag, and then, you know, in a garbage bag, and then pouring that into a cup and then drinking that.
I should try that.
Well, I guess that's better than nothing still, but as long as you're not doing like Twinkies or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Good examples.
Don't do that. Right.
Well, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what I use in my juices, because, you know, like I said, there are a lot of juices out there nowadays. You can either buy, you know, like one place we love is Nectar. And I know that they have like a prepared juice cleanse. Personally, I mean, and I've done some of those, but personally for me, I just love making my own because you can customize it. You can add your own things. On top of it, I love to add some different like supplements and green powders to mine. So I'm just going to go over what I used. So because I wanted to do the most strict cleanse possible, I didn't want to use anything that had high sugars. What I did is I stuck to really like as green as the vegetable could get. I used kale, red chard, zucchini, celery, cucumber, lemon, ginger, and turmeric. And let me say, I got to give a shout out to ginger and turmeric because I love those things. They are so good for inflammation. So that really helped there. And like I said, you could, when you're making your juices, you could use other things. You could use beets. You could use carrots if you want to add a little bit of sweetness. Sometimes, like there's this one juice recipe I found where it was all like the green vegetables I suggested. But what he did is he added one green apple, which gave it a little bit of sweetness as well. So, it's really whatever you want to create. I also want to tell you a little bit about the supplements that I use. And, I'm not, let me say right now, I'm not telling you to go use these supplements, but I just want to let you know what I used because they were, I found them to be so beneficial. Now, because I was healing, trying to cleanse my body after the antibiotics, because although antibiotics are so good for fighting so many things, they also do some havoc on your body because they're getting rid of everything bad, but guess what? They're getting rid of everything good as well. So you want to rebuild, your gut and bring that health back.
You're talking about the antibiotic.
Antibiotics, yeah.
So it removes all of it,
all
the good
of it.
and the bad.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah. So when I was on antibiotics every day, twice a day, I was using a probiotic. So I continued the probiotic twice a day throughout my juice cleanse. Personally, for us, we like this very good high quality one called BioK. And because we eat plant-based, they do have one that's made with rice. It's rice-based. So it doesn't have any dairy in it, which is so nice. I also am a huge fan, and I use it often in my daily life, of Bragg's. I'm saying Bragg's, that's the brand, because this is a really high quality version. It's apple cider vinegar. Now, apple cider vinegar, it does a lot of things, and I'm just going to mention a few here. It kills many types of bacteria. It lowers blood sugar levels, and also it helps to lower your cholesterol. So what I did is I used 2 tablespoons of that per day. I just mix it with some water and drink it. You don't want to drink it straight because that stuff is strong. So I did that once a day. There's something else that I used called bentonite clay, and this is awesome for pulling out toxins out of the system. And that I just use once a day. I think I use like a tablespoon, and you also mix that with water, which it really doesn't have much of a taste to it. And then, we're really big on green drinks, and we've used different ones over the years. So I'm not going to give you an exact name of which one to use. But I used a green drink powder it was morning and night. So I'd mix a little bit of that with water.
You're talking about the one that I bought?
I actually bought a different one. It's the same brand, but it has just some extra things in it.
We'll put links down below.
Okay. So I did a green drink in the morning when I first woke up, and then I would do a green drink before I went to bed. So you see I'm adding things like, even though that's not a juice, it really helps with the whole cleansing process.
And green drink is just, they're vegetables like grinded up in a special process to where it's a powder.
Yes.
And then when you add the water, it's supposed to activate like the photosynthesis or whatever you call it inside of it.
Yeah. Yes. And the one I had purchased, which I can't remember the name right now, so we'll put the link. It was cool because it had land and sea vegetables in it. It had like kelp and things like that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Very cool.
And then another link I'm going to put is to this, there's this tea that I used, And it helps to cleanse, now let me say it, gently cleanse the toxins out of the liver. So I would use that twice a day. Towards the end of my cleanse, I just used it once a day. And you'll notice that after you drink it, within like a half an hour, you have to pee. Like it works really well.
That's fun.
Yay.
So don't drink it before you go to work or long
or before
trips.
you go driving.
Yeah.
And let's see what else. About halfway through my cleanse, I found something called moringa powder. And I found such good information about this. I mean, it was so cool. And so moringa, it's actually high in several antioxidant compounds. And it helps, it basically helps to, relieve stress and inflammation from the body. And it has vitamin C, beta carotene, and I mean, that's just a few of the things. And so that's also in a powder form, which what I did is because you're supposed to take two teaspoons a day. So I just added that to 2 of my juices and just, shook it up like that. And boy, I used a lot of things. Boy. I also used liquid Bragg's oil, which we use it with the kids in our daily life. And what this does is it has all of the essential fatty acids. And so I poured a teaspoon of that in 2 of my juices as well. And I think that might be it. Let's see. Yeah, so that's it. As far as my juicings, what I did is each morning I would just juice all of my vegetables for the day. And I use mason jars because I love those. And I would fill up 5 juices for the whole day. So that way, if I needed to leave the house in a minute, I could just put one in the cooler with some ice and just head out the door. And I didn't have to worry about making my juice at last minute, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know there's also, like, I was just looking it up to remember the name, but there are some prepackaged type juice cleanses that you can do as well. I can't speak for all of them. I know that Nectar has some, and I think I tried a couple of them and I did not like them. They had vegan or not vegan. They had organic ones and non-organic ones, and I can't remember. I remember going through it or something, and there was something about it that that there's like reviews and stuff people had wrote, and it wasn't very favorable. Yeah. So I decided not to go with that one just to test it out. But I ended up doing one called. I've never said this out loud, so I don't even know if I'm saying it right. But Suja, or
that's it.
Suja.
Suja.
Okay, it's Suja,
mm-hmm.
And
those are good.
And yeah, and I remember seeing her on the girl that put this out, the woman that put this out or created it, or she owns it or whatever. And I can't remember her name. I just saw it a second ago. But anyway, she did like a TED Talk, and she talked about her personal story and why she decided to create these juices. So I thought that was a good story. So I did do a cleanse on that. I can't remember how many days I did, but they have packages that you can buy like at Whole Foods, and I think they even have them now like at Costco and stuff like that. I mean, that's a great start.
It is, yeah.
If what's holding you back is getting a juicer and doing all this. I know when I did it, it felt pretty decent, but it wasn't the same. I didn't get the same feeling as I do when I juiced our own vegetables. So I did notice that there was a little bit of a difference there. And but again, it's great for a start to try it out if you're not, if you're the kind of person that's like, look, if I got to buy a juicer and I got to go get all these vegetables, because you can't buy like 7 days worth of vegetables at once.
No.
You have to buy like two days to 3 days max of vegetables. So at least start with something.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I mentioned a lot of things here and I know what it's like. I felt this so many times. When you're hearing something new that you're interested in, but there's so many pieces to it, it feels overwhelming. It sounds like more than it really is though, but if that's what's holding you back, just do something like that just to get started and have an experience of what it's like. And then even if you're doing one of those pre-made cleanses, you can add any sort of supplementation that you want to it. Now, I have read that, people don't usually take like actual vitamins during their juice cleanse. I mean, I'm sure you can hear conflicting things about this, but what I have read and the people I've talked to, they stop taking their vitamins during that time because the juice is giving you so much. I mean, you're getting pretty much what you need, you know?
Well, plus you're trying to give your body a break
Yes.
from having to break things down and
Yeah.
digest it like that.
Yeah.
And a multivitamin is usually pretty like hard, and your body has to work on doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's many reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are getting so many, veggies. But just make sure that when you do it, that if you have to drive like a commute, make sure that you give yourself plenty of time in case you got to pull over and go to the restroom on your way to work.
And pee before you go in the car.
And at work as well. If you have to travel a lot, you might want to wait until after you're done traveling or work it around it, but just prepare that you're going to be going to the restroom, a little bit more often.
Yeah.
Or not a little bit, a lot more often, right? And everybody reacts a little differently to, how their body will respond to a cleanse.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that brings me to my next part, which is what can you expect from it? And, there are many symptoms that people, everyone's different. Let me put it that way. Usually within your first 2 to 3 days, you're going to feel, the most stuff going on. And for some people, it's just really lethargic. Some people, it's hunger pains. Some people feel, I don't know. I've heard people say they've had like flu-like symptoms, but I think that's usually if your body's pretty toxic. If you have a lot going on, you can get those types of symptoms. I know for me, I just felt really tired. Food cravings weren't so bad, which I was kind of amazed because I was cooking everyone's food the whole time. And on top of it, we went out to dinner like twice for my son's birthday. And I'm just sitting there seeing all the food going by like, oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that for the first days not as bad. It was always the second and third days would be the more intense. And one time I remember getting like really bad headaches.
That's another one, headaches.
Yeah. It just depends. Everybody's a little different. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how your body's just getting rid of all that junk inside you.
But then what happens, I'd say, most people I've talked to is like after that third day, all of a sudden you get over that hump and you feel like more energy. The cravings aren't so much there, things like that. It kind of settles down. And I know that's what I felt. It's not like I was like jumping up, like ready to go on a marathon or anything, but I definitely felt clearer and more energy. And I still feel it right now.
That's awesome.
And, it's the thing is like when you're coming off of a cleanse, because being on the cleanse is just part of it. Coming off the cleanse is very, very important. You don't want to just jump off your cleanse and go out to your favorite restaurant and have a smorgasbord, right? Your body has been through a detox, has been through a cleansing. What you want to be doing is you want to slowly come out of it. I'm in that process right now. Yesterday was the last day of my cleanse. So for the next 3 days, I'm eating nothing but vegetables. I'm having salads. I'm having vegetable soup with vegetable broth, things like that. And then after that, I'm going to include some fruits, and then after that, I'll do like seeds and nuts. And then finally, well, because, we're plant-based eaters, so I won't be introducing any plants, any animal proteins. I'll be introducing legumes and some whole grains, things like that.
What are legumes for people that don't know?
Well, like beans and sprouts.
So why don't you just say beans and sprouts? I always wondered that back when I didn't know that.
Legumes sounds so much cooler.
Back when I didn't know what that meant, I was like, what are you talking about? Like lagoons? Like, like water lagoon?
I'm trying to sound cool. You're messing it up.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. Carry on.
Carry on. Yes. And then after that, because I've done this juice cleanse and it has inspired me so much, what it's led to now is our whole family is going to be going through this shift together. We're going to be moving into more of a raw food, like uncooked food type of diet. So we are going to do some cooked
uncooked
foods.
vegetables.
Uncooked vegetables, yeah.
Not raw meat or something like that.
And this is what I'm going to be following for our whole family. I'm going to do 70% veggies, 10% fruits, and 20% grains, beans, nuts, things like that. So I'm going to do my best to stick to that. Of course, after, I'm done coming off of this cleanse and everything, of course we'll go out to dinner to our favorite restaurants sometimes and, go out and have our vegan ice cream. But as a family, we're wanting to make a shift now in our health. And so that's not going to be a regular occurrence. It's going to be like more of a fun thing every once in a while to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Let's get into the RockStar mission.
Yes, let's do it.
Yep. Well, before we do, like always, don't forget to go to rockstarinlife.com to get links to the resources mentioned in this episode. This episode's transcript, download free books, training, yoga, meditation, homeschooling advice, and so much more being added every single week. Go to rockstarinlife.com and join the Rockstar in Life revolution today.
Awesome.
Yep. So your Rockstar mission for today is going to be a pretty simple one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what that is we want you to watch 2 documentaries, right? 2 movies. They're movies. Right, I believe both of them are on Netflix, so I'll link to them. I linked to them in episode 11. Was that episode 11? Yep, 100 Cow Eat a Salad. So I'll put those links again down below, so that way you can check out the documentaries. And what are the documentaries we want them to watch?
Oh, they're so good. One is Forks Over Knives, and the other one is What the Health.
Yep. So great documentaries to watch. And if you haven't watched them, watch them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
Please. Yes.
We'll start with that. And then we'll also have resources for this episode, like I mentioned, with some books or some resources for you to, decide on what kind of cleanse you want to start with first, what kind of juice cleanse. And it's a little tough to give you an exact assignment of like, you need to do 10 days or 7 days or whatever, because everybody else is starting at a different point. You might have been vegan your entire life, or for the last 5 years, you might have already done cleanses. Maybe you haven't done one in a while, and this is a good refresher for you. For certain people like that, maybe 24 hours is good enough, but maybe you've neglected your health, been heavily medicated or whatever, and it's time for you to cleanse yourself, so you would need something a little longer. So what we would say is, start with at least 24 hours. If you can do more, then 3 to 7 days would be even better, and heck, even 10 days. But this isn't a competition. You don't have to push yourself to 10 days. And if you've been pretty clean your entire life and you've been vegan, then you might not need as long. And again, if you're seeking out, physician like we recommended, have them recommend how long you should do it.
Yeah.
And then keep a journal as well and write down how you feel as you're going through it.
Yeah, definitely. It's so nice to be able to look back and see, your progress. And I know I'm going to have my daughter do that, because she's going to be going on she just started today a juice cleanse. So I'm going to have her start writing in her journal.
Love it. Yeah. All right. I ain't got nothing else.
Sounds good. And guys, don't forget to be a rock star in your life.
Make the world your stage.
Thanks for listening to Rockstar in Life, your source for unleashing your inner rock star. For more tips, training, and free stuff, be sure to go to rockstarinlife.com and join the Rockstar in Life revolution today. Thanks again, and don't forget to make the world your stage.